In this video, I'm going to help you break free from the 5 dream home myths that are secretly destroying your quality of life. So whether you're 18 or 80 and whether you own your home, you're renting out, or you're still living with your parents, if you want to radically improve your home experience forever, then this is a video that you don't want to miss. It's time for change. Welcome to Changilla. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever fantasized about your dream home, about the perfect place for you to live? You probably have, right? Well, what if I told you that that dream home is not only making you unhappy, but actively killing your dreams? Don't believe me? Here are the facts. The first thing we know for sure is that how you feel about your home, your current one, is one of the strongest indicators of your well-being. It's been scientifically linked to your education performance, your career success, your self-esteem, creativity, optimism, the quality of your social relationships, your mental and physical health, and even your life expectancy. So, given all those amazing benefits, rationally you'd think that all of us have a strong incentive to stay the hell away from living in places that we hate, and that within our own means and at our own pace, we should all be constantly striving to move closer and closer towards places that we love. But here comes the shocker. Even though that makes perfect sense in theory, when you take a look at reality, it turns out that that's not actually what's happening. I mean, check this out. 70 to 90% of people who relocate to a new home report regretting their decision. Just let that sink in for a moment. That means that almost 9 out of every 10 people who changes homes ended feeling less happy after they moved than they were before. Isn't that crazy? I mean, most of those people are clearly trying to move to a better place for them. So what's going on? Why are so many people messing up? Here's why. Because we, as individuals, but also as a society, are making some assumptions of what is, what makes, and what it takes to get a dream home that are, to put it in technical terms, bullshit. And I'm not making this up. That's what reality is showing us. It's telling us loud and clear that that dream home ideal that you're working so hard to reach is wrong, and that every step that you're taking towards it is hurting you, your health, your career, and yes, your happiness too. But don't worry, that stops today, because we're about to unmask the 5 dream home myths that are keeping you down. So stay tuned, grab your favorite pitchfork, and let's go hunt some myths. Let's start with the basics. What is a dream home? Well, according to the dictionary, a home is the physical place where you live. So it's not surprising that most people see their dream home as the physical place where they want to live. And look, I don't know if that definition qualifies as a myth, but if you think of your dream home in those terms, you're setting yourself up for failure. Just think about it. You don't care about walls, rooms, kitchens, pools, or postal codes for what they are. What you crave, what you actually dream of, are the experiences you'll have using them and the ability of such experiences to satisfy your needs. So in the dream home equation, the key components are you and your experience, not the physical space itself. That's why the first step towards a healthier and more productive relationship with your dream home is to stop thinking of it as a physical thing and to start seeing it as the experience of living in a space that satisfies your needs so well that it allows you to achieve your dream lifestyle and become your dream self. And yes, I know that this sounds a bit too philosophical, but this simple change is going to have massive consequences moving forward. Do you know how in the typical fairy tale, there's always that moment when the hero slays the dragon, rescues the loved one, and then the story comes to a sudden end announcing that they live happily ever after? It sounds naive, right? Well, it turns out that most of us think that that's exactly how dream homes work. The story goes like this. You, the hero, work hard and sacrifice until finally one day you find your quote-unquote dream home, battle and defeat other bidders, head to the bank, sign a 30-year mortgage, and the next thing you know, poof, you're living your dream lifestyle and experience your dream self while a flock of cute little birds folds your laundry. Unfortunately, that never works out, because dream homes are not some magical reaction that can be achieved by combining the right physical ingredients in the right quantities and order. On the contrary, that is a recipe for a life of frustration and regret. And now that we have a better definition of dream home, it's easy to see why. Your physical home can give you a better or worse framework to fulfill your needs, but it cannot fulfill them on its own. There's no amount of stuff, no matter how nice, expensive, or rare, that will put the dream in your dream home. Your infinity pool, for example, won't organize pool parties for you and your friends. The fancy smoker in your backyard, it won't fire itself, smoke some brisket, and invite the cool neighbors down the street for some barbecue. Your fully fitted home gym is not gonna magically melt your belly fat and grow you a six-pack. Yeah, I wish. And remember the extra bedrooms that you said you needed in order to grow your family? Well, let's just say that they won't fill themselves with kids. You and your experience are the only things that can turn a home into a dream home. And not realizing that is why so many people who buy their home of their dreams and later find out that they're still unhappy end up wondering whether the problem is actually themselves. And who can blame them? If we are told that getting stuff is the solution to our problems, and when we get that stuff nothing improves, then it's logical to think that we must be the problem. Ironically, though, the truth is actually the opposite. Contrary to popular belief, the more stuff you get, the more bedrooms, bathrooms, the bigger the backyard, the fancier the kitchen, the pool, the more money you sink into your home, the bigger your expectations are going to be, the higher the pressure to meet those expectations, and the tougher time you're going to have ensuring that your home experience is a positive one. Because homes not only provide you with things, they also demand your time and resources, and the more you're forced to put in, the more you're going to need to get back in order for the trade-off to make sense. So in reality, stuff is frequently the problem, and you and what you do are the solution. And that is empowering, because if you are the key to unlock your dream home, then you already have all the tools that you need to make your life better, even within your current living environment. In fact, as you can see on my video, the 5 golden rules of good home karma, a few simple and cost-free changes of behaviors and attitudes towards your home can have a massive impact on your quality of life. We've always been presented with this static image of a dream home as some sort of magical personal kingdom that's waiting for you at the end of the rainbow. It's the final goal, the last level in the game of housing, the ultimate prize. A single objective that once achieved, you're gonna get to enjoy forever. But let's make things clear. That's also bullshit. And the reason why is pretty straightforward. We humans are in constant flux. Over the course of our lives, our personal circumstances change, our priorities and opinions do, and so do our means and our wants, our dreams, our hopes, and yes, even our needs evolve. For example, when I was 22, I moved to Hong Kong and I loved it. I was a young expat, I was single, I had a cool job in a vibrant city. So when my company offered me to move to Miami after just 1 year, I said, heck no, and I eventually quit. 6 years later, I was still living there, but by then my life had changed. I was an entrepreneur, I got married, my first kid had been born, and slowly but surely I started to feel a growing urge to move somewhere else. At first I blamed it on the city. Hong Kong had changed, and in a way that was true. But as I spent more time thinking about it, I realized that all the things that I used to love about Hong Kong didn't seem to matter that much to me anymore. Instead, I was now prioritizing some other aspects for which Hong Kong was just not measuring up. So the city had changed, yes, but the biggest change had happened within me. And that happens to all of us. It's part of human life. So if our needs evolve over time, and if a dream home is the experience of living in the space that best satisfies our needs, then there's only one logical conclusion. There's no dream home at the end of your journey, but one at every stop along the way, which if you think about it, is super cool. Because before, chasing your dreams usually implied accepting that you'd be spending a significant chunk of your life struggling while living in less than ideal housing. Now, on the other hand, this new perspective allows you to see that every home that you live in, at every single step of the way, has the potential to be the right home for you at the moment in time, as long as you feel that it's supporting you in what you're trying to accomplish. What's more, this new positive experience of your home can prompt you to take better care of it, reinforcing a positive feedback loop that will make you happier, healthier, and it might even help you to achieve your goals faster. And that's not all. Breaking free from this myth, accepting that dream homes are by definition temporary, will allow you to take smarter housing decisions and will protect you from costly inefficiencies, both during the process of finding a new place and also when deciding to move out. Let me give you an example of each. First, remember when I said that almost 9 out of 10 people who move to a new home report regretting that decision? Well, it's very likely that many of those people are victims of the forever home myth. They believe, like most people do, that a dream home is supposed to last forever, and so when they look for a new place, they gaze into the future with sparkly eyes and envision their life 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and choose a home placing too much weight on what might happen in that hypothetical future instead of focusing on their current real needs. Unfortunately, the consequences of doing that can be devastating. Why? Because those hypothetical what-ifs, they're sneaky. And before you know it, they're forcing you to commit to and accept the burden of a whole lot of stuff today without any guarantee that you'll ever receive a single benefit from them. In other words, they create an unbalanced home value proposition from the get-go, and that is pretty much guaranteed to ruin your home experience. Now, that sucks, but it gets worse because this dream home myth is dangerous even for the lucky few who somehow find a home that suits their needs and makes them happy. Why? Because if they fail to understand that dream homes don't last forever, then sooner or later they're gonna find themselves refusing to leave a home that no longer fits their needs. And this is actually not that uncommon. It happens all the time to many empty nesters who stubbornly hold onto the home that gave them so much and treat them so well, even when it's obvious that their needs have changed and that their old home is no longer aligned with their new lifestyles and their new selves. So don't let your happiness be held hostage by a myth. Break the chains, embrace your evolving self, and within your own means, live every stage of your life as happily as you possibly can in a dream home that fits to your needs. Now, that being said, there's a valid argument to limit the amount of times that you move, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I move on to the next myth without warning you about it. Because let's face it, the process of moving to a new home is not usually a pleasant experience. It's a time of stress, and especially during the transition period, it usually results in additional costs and less than ideal living conditions. Those times can be particularly hard for children for whom stability and predictability are significant markers of their psychological well-being. So what that means is that while the right home for you might be constantly changing, it might also be in your best interest to minimize the number of times that you move. That's why one of the most desirable traits of a dream home is its flexibility. Because the more flexible your living space is, the better it can adapt to your changing needs and the longer it can satisfy them without you having to suffer through costly inefficiencies. Now, I think this is a very interesting topic, and I'm considering to create a video with tips and tricks to help you make your home space as flexible as possible without breaking the bank. If you think that's something that could be of value to you, please let me know in the comments below. And if you are enjoying this content and want our friend the YouTube algorithm to let you know when new chinchilla videos become available, please consider to subscribe. Perhaps the most entrenched myth regarding dream homes is the belief that the only way to experience them is by becoming a homeowner. In the United States, for example, over 90% of people consider home ownership to be a critical aspect of the American dream and, by extension, an essential component of their happiness. That belief, in a context of plummeting home affordability due to high property prices combined with peer pressure reinforced through social media, is the perfect recipe for anxiety and dissatisfaction. So perhaps today, more than ever in recent history, it's in our society's best interest to expose this dangerous myth. You see, owning a home has advantages, and some of those are undeniable. For instance, if you own a home, you can do whatever you want with it to adapt it to your needs, something that might be hard to do or even impossible if you're renting out. Does that mean then that it's easier for you to have a dream home experience in a place that you own than in one you're renting out? Well, not necessarily. Because home ownership also comes with its own set of drawbacks, and depending on your circumstances and your life priorities and needs at a given point in time, those constraints, costs, and sacrifices might more than offset any gains you obtain from home ownership. For instance, as a young adult, where you're still figuring out what you like or dislike, it might be worthwhile to experience a wider variety of living environments, and it might be more aligned with your real needs to stay flexible and mobile enough so as to follow your interests, dreams, and career opportunities wherever they might come from. But even for the rest of us, there is absolutely no scientific basis to support the belief that home ownership has a positive correlation with our long-term happiness. On the contrary, there's conclusive evidence that we humans are happier when we spend money on experiences instead of on material goods. So buying a home can quickly result in a negative quality of life experience when it forces us to accept too many trade-offs. Now, if you're Jeff Bezos and have a bottomless wallet, then this is clearly not a problem for you. But for the rest of us, home ownership is a major long-term financial commitment. And I'm not just talking about the mortgage payments. Owning a home also requires you to pay property taxes, insurance, and an upkeep which could be around 1% of your home value every year. And it is the sum of all those hidden costs that can drain your wallet faster than a leaking pipe. So no matter how you look at it, home ownership is not cheap, and therefore it might require some trade-offs. For example, you might have to cut back on vacations or restaurant meals or reduce the frequency with which you go out with your friends. You might even be forced to give up one of your hobbies. In other words, you might end up sacrificing your social life and your leisure, which are two of your main drivers of happiness, for the questionable pleasure of owning a home. So of course, when that pleasure doesn't materialize, well, you can see how quickly buying the wrong home can make you miserable. What's worse, buying a home is not something you can test first or easily undo once it's done. It's a decision that, like it or not, can radically change your life overnight. Now, this doesn't mean that renting or living with your parents until you're 40 is the only way to live in a dream home. And I'm not trying to downplay the real struggle that many of you are experiencing in the current housing market either. What I'm saying is that whether the right home for you or your current stage of life is a rental or a home you own or any other creative housing solution, is up to you to decide based on a clear understanding of your financial means and your needs. Nothing else matters. So the next time you feel existential angst when you see a YouTuber who has built a portfolio of 45 homes at the age of 6, please take a deep breath and remember, home ownership is not always the right answer. If you've ever been out and about looking for a new place to stay in, chances are that someone at some point will have shared with you this ancient piece of house hunting wisdom. Find a place that fits your lifestyle. And at first, it doesn't strike like terribly bad advice. After all, we've defined a dream home as the experience of living in the place that best fits your needs. So shouldn't your lifestyle be a good indicator of your needs at any given point in time? No, not really. I mean, it would be a good indicator if all our lifestyles were designed to maximize the satisfaction of our needs. But then we would all be living long, happy, healthy, fulfilling lives, and this video would have not a reason to exist. So yeah, it's a nice idea, but unfortunately, it doesn't reflect reality. In fact, our lifestyles are very often making us miserable. So by getting a home that perfectly fits your lifestyle, you might be actually condemning yourself to a perfectly unhappy life. The role of your dream home then is not to fit your lifestyle, but to help you improve it. You see, change is scary and it's rarely the easy choice. So the right home for you at any given time has to be able to nudge you in the right direction. It has to establish the conditions that encourage you to make decisions that are beneficial for your long-term happiness. That is a good dream home. So what sort of conditions are we talking about? Well, there are quite a few things that we know about human happiness that can point us in the right direction. For example, as far as we can tell with available research, the single most important marker of happiness, health, and longevity is the quantity and quality of our social connections. So paradoxically, in a world that seems intent on dividing us, living in a place that lets you and encourages you to be an active part of a thriving community might be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. Which means that if you've always dreamed of living in a 40-acre ranch in the middle of nowhere, well, perhaps it's time to rethink your dreams. Here's another general home hunting tip. When faced with a choice, always remember that time is your most precious commodity because what matters for your happiness is what you do in the minutes and hours of your day. As a result, the right home for you should be your ally and help you minimize painful chore time and free as much you time as possible. For example, for a given budget, a smaller home with a shorter commute will usually be better than a bigger one with a much longer one. That is, of course, unless you really enjoy being stuck in traffic while listening to a chinchilla video, in which case, please live as far from work as you want. Just keep your eyes on the road, okay? Now, while these general home hunting tips are helpful, they're not enough. If you really want to know how to make the most of your current home or what you should be looking for in your next one, then you're gonna need to dig way deeper. You're gonna have to look within and figure out your individual needs and your own drivers of happiness. But don't worry, because to do that, you don't have to spend a fortune traveling to the Himalayas on a trip of self-discovery. You can achieve way better results without spending a dime and right from your sofa by watching my next video. There, I'll introduce you to the Dream Home Wishlist methodology, which can help you figure out the right home for you in 7 simple steps. But before you go check it out, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know if you found this video helpful in the comments below. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks a lot for your support, and I hope to see you soon here, as always, in Chinchilla.